We are following that other big breaking news story today. The manhunt in Utah after conservative political activist Charlie Kirk was shot and killed in broad daylight. Today, investigators are on the roof of the building where a suspect fired a single deadly shot yesterday, killing the 31-year-old Trump ally and co-founder of Turning Point USA as he was fielding questions from a crowd at Utah Valley University. The governor calling yesterday's college campus attack an assassination. Authorities in Utah just moments ago suggesting they have new leads about the shooter.
We have recovered what we believe is the weapon that was used in yesterday's shooting. It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle. That rifle was recovered in a wooded area where the shooter had fled. Investigators have also collected footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints.
The suspect blended in well with a college institution. We're not releasing many details right now, and we will soon. But right now we're not. But that individual appears to be of college age.
Charlie Kirk was instrumental in cultivating support for the MAGA movement, specifically driving up support for President Trump among younger demographics that Republicans had struggled with in recent years. Let's go to NBC's Aaron Gilchrist on the scene in Utah for us. Monica Alba is back with us from Washington, and we are also joined by former D.C. Chief of Homeland Security and Intelligence, Donell Harvin. Aaron, what more did we learn about the investigation and the ongoing manhunt?
Well, Anna, we learned from investigative leaders here that they are starting to pull together the elements that they will need to be able to track down the suspect in this shooting. We heard from the head of the Department of Public Safety here in Utah, the state police effectively, and the leader of the FBI office in this area. And they did indicate that they've been able to look at, for example, video from homes in a neighborhood surrounding the university, the neighborhood where they believe the shooter ran after the incident yesterday afternoon. And they say that they've been able to start collecting footage to see someone that they believe is the person that they're looking for in this case. At the same time, as you noted, we know that they've also been able to recover a rifle in this incident. They described it as a high-powered bolt-action rifle that was found in a wooded area near the university, presumably near the neighborhood where we saw the suspect run, along with those footprints, foot impressions rather, and other things on the scene there. So this is all going to aid in the effort investigators are making right now to figure out exactly who that person is and track him down. I want you to hear a little bit more from the folks who ran the news conference here earlier today. Listen.
We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time. We are working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful, we will reach out to you as the media, and we will push that publicly to help us identify them. But we are confident in our abilities right now.
Now, I was able to ask a question of the gentleman you saw there at the podium just a few minutes ago, and I said, given the fact that you have this video footage and the fact that you have what you believe to be the weapon in this incident, do you think you know who the suspect is in this case specifically? And they wouldn't answer that question directly, but did say that they are going to be using technology, as you heard, to try to figure out who it is they've seen in this video. And they've started the process, Anna, of tracing that rifle, and that could give them some more answers or some new leads in terms of finding a suspect.
Donell, why not release the video footage and images of the suspect, given this person is still at large?
Yeah, this individual could actually be watching this show right now. And if they understand that law enforcement is close to them, that may change their pattern of evasion. The fact that they have the rifle is going to yield so much data, as the previous commenter just said, not only where it was purchased, who purchased it, but there's physical data on that rifle. It could be fingerprints, DNA certainly, what we call touch DNA can be gleaned from that. And so there's a lot of information just on that one piece of evidence that they're going to want to go through.
They were able to track this person's movements. They believe they have a good look at this person. They say the suspect seemed college age, blended in at the college. Donell, any takeaways from that?
Now, I don't want to read too much into that. Charlie Kirk attracts a younger crowd, as the lead-in said. And so, once again, if you're a trained assailant, you're going to try to blend in with the crowd. That's your best chance. You're not going to show up wearing all black and tactical gear. That's going to make you stick out like a sore thumb. From all the little bits of information that we've gotten so far, and this is a very fresh investigation, it speaks to an assailant, someone who is targeting this individual who had some type of tradecraft. What I mean by that, they had some idea about where they were going to be. They had the equipment to get the job done. They had the patience to lay in wait, and they had planned their escape. And so this is a very dangerous individual, and I think law enforcement is doing a great job in tracking this person down and keeping the public safe right now.
He only took one shot. That's what the eyewitnesses tell us. They only heard one gunshot that hit Charlie Kirk in the neck, we believe. And again, we know this was from a long range. What does that tell you about the shooter?
It could mean that this person's a professional, although I don't want to go there. It certainly means that they had training. I've shot rifles before, and I'm a terrible shot. I certainly couldn't shoot that type of shot from 200 yards away. Very few people could. And so you would need to have extensive training, either on your own or through some type of organization, to have that type of wherewithal. Keep in mind that the shooter that tried to take out President Trump was about 150 yards away. And so this is a very difficult shot to make. And once again, all this speaks to someone who has had some type of professional training and has exceedingly good tradecraft skills to not only do this shot successfully, but make good their escape now for almost 12 hours or so.
We know that they are approaching this with all hands on deck. And Monica, the FBI is co-leading the investigation with the Utah Department of Public Safety. FBI Director Kash Patel has been very active on social media about this. Kirk was friends with several people in this administration. Monica, take us through how the White House learned about this shooting and the personal impact it's having there.
Well, they were watching in real time, as many of us were watching, Anna, as those reports started to come in that there had been some kind of shooting, those initial details that were a little bit unclear. And then when they learned and when it was confirmed that Charlie Kirk had been hit by that single shot, White House officials were trying to do their job, trying to get more information, trying to figure out what they could tell, in some cases, members of the media, while also dealing with the fact that many of these people knew Charlie Kirk on a personal level and have for almost a decade. These are people who worked with him back on the 2016 campaign and, of course, in the years since then. And as you mentioned, administration officials, cabinet secretaries, all of them also had quite close relationships with Charlie Kirk, often directly talking to him or messaging him and discussing policy issues that he wanted to weigh in on from that perspective. And so this really went through and sent shockwaves with White House officials, some of whom worked through tears and who were trying to figure out exactly what was happening like everybody else was. The president was briefed in real time. He huddled with some of his senior aides in the Oval Office as other people were monitoring the developments in the Situation Room and in touch with local officials. And ultimately, the president put out a message later in the evening about everything that had unfolded. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today.
And Anna, we should also point out that Charlie Kirk was very close with Vice President Vance. He was scheduled originally to travel to New York today, but he changed those plans yesterday after the shooting and instead is heading to Utah with the Second Lady today to pay his respects to Charlie Kirk's family.
Monica Alba, thank you. Please keep us posted from the White House. I also want to note that we don't know the motive for certain. We don't know who this suspect is, what was motivating this person to open fire. We know FBI officials and others involved in the investigation believe it was a targeted attack. Aaron, can you help us understand the layout of where this shooting took place? Where was it on campus exactly? How could a shooter flee from an area with 3,000 witnesses?
Yeah, all questions that we've been putting to the law enforcement here in Utah. I can tell you the location where we are now is where they held the news conference earlier today inside a building. We were able to walk past an area, the scene where the incident happened yesterday, inside the building. We could see through the windows the area where the shooting happened. And as you've been able to see from some of the aerial images that have been on air, there is sort of a bowl here. I've heard it described as a bowl, an amphitheater area where the folks were able to sit in sort of these grassy areas and look down toward the speaker, Charlie Kirk in this case. And so that's sort of the setup here. I can tell you right now there are still personal items in that area. There were strollers and scooters, lots of debris still in that area because we know those 3,000 people that you noted, many of them just ran. As soon as they were able to get back on their feet, they ran from the area there. As we understand it from the university, the shooter was on the rooftop of a building overlooking that sort of bowl area, about 200 yards, as we understand from the university, away from where Charlie Kirk was speaking. The law enforcement here this morning were able to tell us that they have tracked the shooter's movements. They believe it was about 11:52 when he came onto campus, worked his way into that building, through the stairwells, up to the rooftop, fired that shot, and then was able to jump off the roof, run into a wooded area, into a neighborhood, and get away. And the why of it all is something, Anna, that we're still trying to get our hands around.